Hi, my name is Farzana Simran Anzarudeen and I'm a student at the English and Foreign Languages University, Hyderabad. My paper is titled White Supremacism, Silver Screen, Cinema's Cause-Effect Relationship with the Ku Klux Klan. I'd like to thank the organizers of MediaKonnect'21 for giving me the opportunity to present this paper today. Here is an overview of the presentation. First, we have the abstract. The visual medium of cinema is not only a means of expression and recreation, but significant as a product of contemporary culture and an influence on the same. The utilization and exploitation of this facet of cinema is exemplified in the case of the Ku Klux Klan, a white supremacist terrorist organization. This paper examines the portrayal of the Klan by two diametrically opposite films, which constitute the primary sources: D.W. Griffith's The Birth of a Nation and Spike Lee's Blacklandsman. Owing to its impact, there is a vital need for the employment of cinema to unlearn racism instead of propagating racist ideologies and prejudices. Therefore, this paper aims to understand the cause-effect relationship in the context of the Ku Klux Klan and the films dealing with it. Through content analysis, it is found that Blacklandsman acts as an antidote to the persisting effects of the film, The Birth of a Nation. How is cinema related to culture? A picture speaks 1,000 words, while a standard film plays at a rate of 24 frames per second, conveying immeasurably more. Cinema is thus one of the most potent forms of media. Movies reflect as well as influence the cultural attitudes, events, and trends that are prevalent in a given era, lending a temporal quality to the mirroring and shaping of the audience's consciousness. Therefore, cinema has a cause-effect relationship with contemporary culture, as it is both a cultural influence and product. What is the Ku Klux Klan? The Ku Klux Klan is fundamentally an American white supremacist organization with ideologies of Nordicism and extreme nationalism. There have been 3 clans at various points in history. The first clan was founded in the post-Civil War period during the early days of Reconstruction with neo-Confederate interests. They reached peak popularity with the second clan with more than 5 million members in 1920. The third clan arose as an opposition to the civil rights movement in the 1990s and persists even today. They operate primarily in the southern states and are infamous for using extreme violence to oppress the subaltern, here African Americans, and later Jews, Muslims, immigrants, and homosexuals. D.W. Griffith's film proved instrumental in the revival of the regional, initially limited and almost decimated First Klan to the widespread terrorist organization that it is today. Let's talk about the significance of the study. It raises questions regarding the role of media as propaganda, its cultural values, and correlation with society. This can become a volatile question today, capable of triggering extreme violence and inhumanity. The topic of study is relevant in the context of the Black Lives Matter movement and the increasing hate crimes and xenophobic attitudes in the United States of America and the rest of the world. With respect to other forms of media, cinema is the most effective mode of instruction, owing to its accessibility and entertainment value. Therefore, it is crucial that cinema is utilized as a vehicle of unlearning and subsequently guide the collective consciousness of the audience toward equality. Now, how is cinema responsible for the revival of the Ku Klux Klan, and how is cinema atoning for the same? The objective of this paper is to explore this question with respect to D.W. Griffith's The Birth of a Nation and Spike Lee's Blacklandsman. While referring to this particular case, the paper intends to study the relationship between cinema and culture. The hypothesis of the paper is that The Birth of a Nation is the cause of the popularity of the Ku Klux Klan, and Blacklandsman is the effect of the popularity of the same. Hence, cinema has a cause-effect relationship with culture and society. Coming to the review of literature, the primary sources of the study are D.W. Griffith's The Birth of a Nation and Spike Lee's Blacklandsman. Both films are set in a period 50 years prior to their release. They are both adaptations of novels written by Thomas Dixon and Ron Stallworth, respectively. with a fictionalization of true events to different extents. The former gave the Ku Klux Klan a new lease of life, and the latter is one notable example of the many films that have sprung up in response. About 100 years apart in release, these films thus portray the same organization in different lights and contexts. The former glorifies the first Klan, while the latter exposes the third Klan. Now let's look at these films closely. The Birth of a Nation was a landmark film in multiple respects. It was the first feature-length motion picture, hence the longest and most complex film made at the time. It was the first film with an intermission and a musical score for an orchestra, with a cast of over 10,000 people. Griffith pioneered the flashback and parallel editing through this film. Owing to Dixon's friendship with President Woodrow Wilson, it was the first American film that was screened at the White House. However, it was also the most controversial film ever made in the United States and is dubbed the most offensive film. It acted as propaganda for the lost cause of the Confederacy, providing a highly subjective, historically inaccurate account of the Civil War and the Reconstruction. It also romanticized the origins of the Ku Klux Klan, depicting them as saviors restoring order, serving justice, and protecting white America. Even more problematic was the film's portrayal of African Americans as unintelligent, morally degenerate, and dangerous by nature. This was met by protests and attempts to ban the film. However, The Birth of a Nation went on to profoundly influence not just the film industry but also American culture. Blacklandsman deals with the third Klan, which emerged in the 1970s during the civil rights movement and persists even today. In 2017, many of these alt-right groups demonstrated against the removal of a statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee at the University of Virginia as a Unite the Right rally, which caused horrific riots, injuring and killing protesters. Exactly 1 year later, Blacklandsman released in theaters in memoriam. The movie is based on the memoir of the first African American detective in the CSPD, Ron Stallworth, who successfully infiltrated the city's Ku Klux Klan chapter using his Caucasian colleague as a body double. He even managed a telephone correspondence with David Duke, the then national director and grand wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, while his colleague impersonated him at Klan meetings. The film is widely considered an antidote for the racist ideologies narrativized in previous films, including D.W. Griffith's The Birth of a Nation. Now, through the methods of content analysis, it is understood that the first film played a decisive role in the revival of the Klan, while the second film is an attempt to undo the glorification of the same. By orchestrating costume demonstrations and cross burnings in Atlanta, William Joseph Simmons utilized the popularity of Birth of a Nation as a recruiting tool and founded the second Klan. The renewed Klan distributed pamphlets at screenings and borrowed heavily from the film, more than it derived from the original Klan, adopting the standardized white costumes and the cross burnings featured in the film, which were not observed by the first Klan. On further analysis, we find that The Birth of a Nation used more titles than any other short film, silent film, mainly as a device to propagate these ideologies. The intertitles stand for Griffith's voice, which adopts an omniscient authority. It defined the stereotype of the lazy, degenerate, sexually aggressive image of African Americans that would pervade pop culture for centuries. It is ironic that despite claiming authenticity in their depiction, the film's major black roles were played by white actors in blackface, who produced terribly exaggerated caricatures. Conveying the greatest fear of miscegenation and the consequent contamination of white Aryan blood, Griffith provides the Ku Klux Klan as a heroic solution for the same. The character of Ben Cameron is inspired to start the first Klan. Thus, the film was used extensively by Klansmen for recruiting and publicity purposes. The political climate provided favorable conditions upon which the film acted as a catalyst. The Dunning School and the Jim Crow laws were still prevalent while racial tensions rose with the change in demographic. With these factors, the film strengthened the conservative arguments and weakened the resistance. Thus, the film's audience were, if not extremist, at least sympathetic with the racist ideologies screened. The Ku Klux Klan membership witnessed a rapid rise. Now, BlackLandsman depicts the Ku Klux Klan as a terrorist organization masquerading as a patriotic cause, whose civilizing mission is in reality ethnic cleansing. BlackLandsman does not aim only at the KKK, but it challenges extremist white nationalism and racist attitudes in general. By virtue of its employment of realism and social commentary, the film can be considered a satire of the current political climate in American contemporary society. Spike Lee explicitly frames the events of the movie in the context of the current white supremacist trends and the presidency of Donald Trump. The film's anti and coda have been included to underscore the message. In the film, Topher Grace portrays David Duke in his heyday as National Director and Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. In the coda, the real David Duke is at the riots, speaking of alt-right hate groups associating themselves with Donald Trump's campaign. The ante features a highly xenophobic speech with footage from The Birth of a Nation. This powerful image shows the power of propagandist speech and is symbolic of the persisting effects of Griffith's film. The coda features actual footage from the 2017 Charlottesville riots, with neo-Nazis and white supremacists marching in the streets and attacking protesters. It also includes footage of President Donald Trump's lukewarm reaction to the incident, thus enabling the audience to connect the film and the coda, showing how the socio-political condition has far from improved since the 1970s scenario shown in the movie. Through the powerful closing images of the martyred Heather Heyer and an upside-down American flag, the film acts as a wake-up call and rallying cry for America. Therefore, we observe that cinema is a medium that not only entertains but also educates by mirroring and shaping the collective consciousness of its diverse audiences. Cinema is a comparatively passive experience with more consumable content. The potential for misinformation is also higher, and historical films need not be factually accurate as creative liberties are often taken and abused. These are the underlying reasons for the effectiveness of the agitprop and social commentary film. Agitprop refers to any political propaganda that is spread to the general public through popular media such as films, literature, plays, etc., with an explicitly political message. Despite its overall historical inaccuracy, The Birth of a Nation recreated scenes of Lincoln's assassination and the Civil War with utmost attention to detail. This sold the credibility of the film to the audience, making it effective as propaganda. The Birth of a Nation is capable of misleading the present-day layman who looks for explanations to certain contemporary and social problems and thus qualifies as an agitprop. Cinema is a reflection of contemporary society and culture, constituted by current affairs, political and social trends. Every movie, irrespective of genre, features some kind of social commentary of either the time period of its setting or the period of its making. However, even period films can tell present-day audiences about their contemporary norms and issues. BlackLandsman by Spike Lee is a notable example of the same. The film provides social commentary in the context of the Charlottesville riots, the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement, and the gradual questioning of systemic prejudices in the US policing institutions. I'd like to conclude by saying that cinema is a powerful medium that can be harnessed as an agitprop or a social commentary, among several other applications. Though commercial films with underlying messages are criticized for disrespecting the issue, they are more effective and accessible. The Birth of a Nation instigated violence against African Americans for over a century. BlackLandsman may have started a dialogue and made audiences introspect and question race relations, but there has been no real alleviation in the conditions of African Americans. The following years witnessed several cases of police brutality, with the killing of George Floyd inciting great furor. The widespread protests following the incident made Black Lives Matter one of the largest movements in United States history. Here are the references used in the research. I'd like to thank everyone for attending this presentation, especially Navrachna University for giving me this opportunity. The floor is now open for questions. Thank you. All my fellow scholars and academicians present here today. My name is Farzana Simran Anzarudeen, and I'm a student at the English and Foreign Languages University, Hyderabad. My paper is titled White Supremacism, Silver Screen, Cinema's Cause Effect